I was returning from Dabrowa-Pusnienski. There is a village there, and I drove towards home. The time was like this, before 8 o'clock anyway. When I was leaving the links, behind the bushes, I noticed two people walking in the same direction I was going. At first they walked faster, and then gradually, when they looked at me with such a light glance, they noticed that I was driving. They started to slow down and walked slower and slower. When I reached them, they, one on the one hand, moved to the left, the other to the right, and I rode in between them, and they, accompanying me, went upstairs. I oni mi w te czasy wsiedli na wóz. They were talking, but they spoke in a very small voice that I don't recognize. I only heard this voice. I didn't understand anything at all. Ultimately, I'm still leaving. Once again, on these connections, I noticed a car in the air. However, it surprised me that a car in the air can stand and float down a little, about half a meter and higher. And this car right here, I know, like these beasts.
Then tell us what this vehicle looked like, and Mr. Grzegorz will draw it all.
It was the shape of a shorter bus, not like they are now, very long, just the shorter kind.
Yes. Was he standing in the air at this height? Like here?
Yep.
Here it is. Here it is. Here it is, grass.
Yes, in this shape.
Was this entrance hole on this wall?
On this wall.
As he looks here.
Just like this man is drawing now.
And those vortices sticking up and down here?
Up and down evenly, at the same distance up and down.
Those vortexes were spinning, right?
That's right.
And did you hear such a sound then?
I heard.
They were buzzing, right? Yes.
They were supposed to say that sound anyway, right?
Yes.
But it's one even voice.
Was he the all-white vehicle?
All white, like this, micro-finished, like something.
Yes. Were there any screws, threads, any welding?
Nothing. Nothing. I didn't notice it, and it wasn't there. When we got to the vehicle, there was a lift there, low. I entered in the lift, stood in front of the door. They told me to go inside with my hand.
Yes, and where did that elevator start from?
This elevator started. Above the door there were some kind of twines attached.
But they were against the roof.
With this roof, yes?
Oh, and the base on which you stood was hanging. Was it hanging?
It was me who went inside. I noticed two people still inside, standing there. Green faces, as I saw, and hands, green gloves. That is, gloves or such a body. Well, I don't notice it. And on the fingers there were these thin, tiny little fins. They were dressed in dark black colopine suits. There was no shoe, you see? Only kombinizum, also worn here, only here it's a bit slower, and on the legs it's tighter. And here again tighter and still green faces. Oh, that's how, oh yes, oh, those kombinizums were there. And here are the faces, whether painted or masks of some kind. I didn't notice it. And he told me to undress.
A tutaj twarze, czy malowane, czy jakieś maski, to ja tego nie zauważyłem. I kazał mi się rozebrać.
The belt, ladies and gentlemen, when I asked about the one I have, they were very interested in this belt. Oh, I'll show you. They took it in their hands, looked at it. All four of them came close, put it on, fastened it, looked at it. But I don't know what they were admiring there. And they smiled something, a smile. Not like we laugh with our eyes, they just grimaced. But did they grimace like that on purpose? I can't say for sure. And one of the two people in the vehicle in front of me had two plates like this, foldable ones, and in front of me, about 2 meters away, someone folded these plates. These plates broke a little, just slightly, but it's not like the sound of sheet metal or something, just a slight sound, as if we were putting together some plastic or something. Well, there will be a little sound, but it's not that loud. In front of me. Then I was turned sideways. He took my hand from those who were next to me and placed it on my side. Then he turned my back. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I heard a slight creak, then on the other side, and I was told to get dressed. At that time, ladies and gentlemen, they had a piece of shape leading, except it wasn't leading. It was some kind of food, but what kind, I don't know. Only the shape. Such a piece, about 30 centimeters, and it broke like a harder dough. It was crumbling like that. It was broken little by little, and they ate it. Not a big piece, a little bit at a time. One of the two even sentenced what he held in his hand and what they ate. He sentenced whether I would eat my hand. He condemned what he held and condemned me to eat it. And I was the only one who nodded no. Incy, I wasn't talked into doing this. I noticed that there were some of our birds, rooks or ravens. Well, in our countryside, some call it rooks, others call it ravens. There were about 10 pieces lying around, I guess. And so they moved their wings, moved their heads, moved their legs, but they were incapacitated. And I also noticed in the wall, opposite the door, and a little near the door, he was holding a baton in his hand, maybe 30 centimeters, maybe 30, yes, plus, minus, well, about that. And there were two holes, one against the other, maybe 30 centimeters, maybe there, maybe a little more, maybe, well, around that. And he put the stick on something, and there was a little raspberry head on the stick. He put one of them in the hole, adjusted something, and moved. But what, I don't know. He later put it into the ladder, and he was moving something there again. Yes. And just like that, he left and started walking again. After this vehicle. And he went in again and put it back in and adjusted something. And there was no lamp, no light, no motorbike, nothing but smooth walls, just... Wait, one more, only... There were benches like this in this vehicle, a few benches.
Here, based on your reports, I made a relatively accurate drawing of this vehicle.
It's like this building or this car in the air.
Do you see any detail here that could be changed to further your case?
And here is also the same issue of my vision. The eyes are slanted. Here, sir, they are just a little bit protruding, these bones.
Tylko mieli o tutaj takie troszkę wystane te kości.
This one is also more similar in structure.
This one is more similar. After I got dressed, I was ordered to leave.
To mi skazano wyjść.
He ordered the market to go. I was about to put my foot down on this vehicle, on this lift, but I turned to them. I already had my hat on. I turned to them and said goodbye. We'll bow a little bit like that. Everyone was looking at me, all four, and they too bowed. I stood on the vehicle and drove further. And I went to the horse. The horse pulled back a bit and stood on its side. So I got into the cart, and while I was driving, this horse, that is this mare, climbed only these trees because she was on this path, and later she was afraid of this vehicle. However, when the police arrived, they saw this horse just by these links, because he was messing with that vehicle. If it weren't for those Wolsins, I might have flown further, but there was nowhere to go. And suddenly I was shooting outside the vehicle on the same road. So I looked back about 15 steps away, and when I drove away, I still saw the vehicle standing there. And then, well, I didn't see it anymore because it turned right, past those Wolsinki streets, and I was in a hurry to get home. Because I wanted to show my boys?
Well, he came and left the horse. Even if he left the cage there, he came and stood there, just like an old man, in the apartment, and asked where the boys were. And I say, I've only just been here. I say, there must be such a trip there. I say, because what happened? I'm always like that with him. What happened? And nothing, because if they went beyond the bank there, they would see, he says, the blood of monsters like that, and some vehicle up there, he says.
Well, when I heard about it, my father said that there were some wonderful people. They were green. They had hands or arms, and they had a vehicle in the air. Well, at first I thought that maybe the scouts had unwrapped their tents, but when I heard that there was a vehicle in the air, I knew there had to be something else. So anyway, I ran out to the neighbor's house, and we just walked quickly. We got there. There was nothing. Only there were traces on the dew, on the grass, in one direction, in the second, and in the third. Then we followed these traces. So somewhere there was a stream flowing further, about 200 meters, but it was covered with dew, so we completely followed these traces. And as if it had been lost by this stream, only those traces were visible in the mud. Well, when I arrived, the police immediately laughed at it and said that either my father was drunk or that he had fallen asleep. My father doesn't drink vodka at all, and I know he couldn't have been drunk at all. I can name several people who were with me and saw these traces.
I was there at that place and saw those marks. There was a trace of, well, no, a rectangle. Well, not that kind. I put my shoe there. It was bigger. The bottom center was concave, right?
I flew with them, true, but I couldn't see anything there. So that there are traces. Truth, Perosi, Slovis. There were traces, one to Rai, the other one, true, to Lops, our neighbor, true. And our horse was standing there. It was gone. Grass, the horse ate this grass.
While I was frying the pancakes, I heard a terrible noise. I jumped out and wanted to call the children because I was terribly scared and I just knew what had happened to them. And at that moment, when I started calling for Adasiu and Agnieszka, the momentary flutter came. And at that time, Adich arrived with Agnieszka and started saying, "Mom, I saw a strange plane. It was similar to a bus."
What did Ty see there?
Like a bus.
Like a bus, right? And what color was it?
Just like the sky.
Oh, just like the sky, right?
And listen, did you see anything else interesting there? What else did you see there? Did it have a window, many windows, or one?
One.
And did you see anything in this window?
And what was there?
And the pilot was sitting.
And the pilot was sitting? Did the pilot have a hat or not?
He had.
What kind of hat did the pilot have? Like this.
Which one?
Like you or not.
Just like you have, right? Was it for ears or not for ears?
For the ears.
Show there where you were standing when you saw this strange bus flying in the air. And show me with your hand where it was.
There, right?
Please tell me what you see in this picture.
Me in this picture, only these heads had no solution.
But maybe you can recognize some details?
No.
So please try to create a story about this painting.
Well, I don't have the education for it. I have no idea for it at all. After a story or some story.
Where is this number? That's 8.
And this? And here?
29.
57.
5, 3. All right. Everyone says that if it were someone else, they wouldn't believe it. But Wolski is a very up-to-date man, older, and nothing like this has ever happened to him before. So he could come up with something like this.
He shouldn't have made this up because we never say anything like that about it.
He would never engage in such business. It would be untrue.
From the point of view of ufological knowledge, there are some puzzling things here. While listening to Mr. Wolski's story, in which he described the creature's behavior and appearance, I felt as if I was reading a specialized ufological magazine, the Flying Saucer Review, and its stink at me and others. Well, the descriptions of UFO creatures that come from all over the world agree very well with Mr. Wolski's account. It remains a fascinating mystery to me how this farmer could have known such details as slanted eyes, stretching slightly to the sides of the face, described very often in UFO reports. How did he know the protruding cheekbones that give the face an Oriental Asian character? Where does the green skin come from? Where do the black one-piece suits come from? Not connected with any rivets, buttons, or eclairs? Where does this yellow circle characteristic of Zufo creatures come from? With a red dot in the middle. These are things that make you think, and there is no easy answer. I must say that I approached the psychological examinations of Mr. Wolski from Emilcin with a large dose of skepticism. However, as a result of my research, I can make a few statements. First statement. It seems very unlikely to me that Mr. Polski was deliberately misleading us. Then he had neither the motivation nor the opportunity. Second statement. It seems equally unlikely to me that Mr. Polski was programmed by someone to give false testimony. He is simply very resistant to this type of suggestion. Third statement. It also seems unlikely to me that the adventure that happened to Mr. Wolski could have been the result of a morbid psyche. Mr. Wolski does not show any symptoms of mental illness, and his mental condition is better than that of most people his age. So let me ask you a question. What did Mr. Wolski see? And there is actually no answer to this question from a psychological point of view. However, I took the liberty of making the fourth statement, that he probably saw something unusual, something very interesting. What could it be? I don't know. Maybe he was the victim of a joke. Maybe he saw some experimental vehicle unknown to the general public. Or maybe it was something that exceeds the limits of my imagination.